This 1899 photo shows Nikola Tesla sitting calmly beneath a storm of man-made lightning. He's dwarfed by his magnifying transmitter, an early version of a Tesla coil. But what most people don't know is that this wasn't a staged photograph. Tesla regularly performed these high-voltage experiments with minimal safety precautions. He believed wireless energy could power the entire planet. The world didn't listen. Now, over a century later, we're still trying to catch up to his ideas. This grainy photo, taken in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, captures Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, just before they began their motorcade through the city. They were in Bosnia on an official visit, greeted with crowds, smiles, and carefully staged ceremony. But what no one knew at that moment was that their route would unexpectedly change, placing them in the path of a young man named Gavrilo Princip. Within minutes, both the Archduke and Sophie would be gone. That single moment, fueled by politics, tension, and chance, set off a global chain reaction. The event would ripple outward, drawing entire nations into what we now know as World War I. This photo shows Joseph Stalin standing beside his trusted ally, Nikolai Yezhov. At the time, Yezhov was one of the most powerful men in the Soviet Union, head of Stalin's secret police. But not long after this image was taken, he was removed from power, and then from the photo entirely. Soviet censors airbrushed him out, as if he never existed. This wasn't an isolated case. Stalin erased dozens of officials from both history and memory. A simple photo turned into a quiet symbol of fear, where even standing next to the wrong man could make you disappear. This photo, taken in December 1970, captures one of the most unexpected encounters in American history. Elvis Presley, the most famous entertainer in the world, met privately with President Richard Nixon at the White House. In a handwritten letter, Elvis expressed his concerns about the direction of American culture and the challenges facing its youth. He offered his help as a cultural figure, hoping to serve his country in a new way. Moved by his sincerity, Nixon presented him with a special badge and welcomed his support. The photo, once classified, would go on to become the most requested image in the U.S. National Archives, a quiet meeting between fame and power in a time of unrest. In this image from 1960, a young Michael Rockefeller stands at the edge of the world, smiling, unaware of the mystery that would soon surround his name. The son of future U.S. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, Michael wasn't drawn to politics or business. Instead, he immersed himself in anthropology, venturing deep into remote regions of Papua New Guinea to study indigenous cultures. During a return trip in 1961, while traveling by catamaran along the southern coast, his boat capsized. Michael swam for shore and vanished. Despite extensive searches, no trace was ever officially recovered. Later reports hinted that he may have reached land, but encountered a world unprepared for outsiders. Whether lost to the sea or to something far more complex, no one truly knows what happened next. And so this quiet moment, captured in a single frame, remains the last clear glimpse before one of the greatest disappearances of the 20th century. On the morning of June 5, 1989, a line of military tanks rolled through Tiananmen Square in Beijing. Just the day before, the square had been filled with student-led demonstrations calling for reform. Now the government had declared martial law, and the protests had been violently suppressed. But as the tanks advanced, one man stepped into their path. Dressed in a white shirt and holding shopping bags, he stood still, alone, refusing to move. The lead tank tried to swerve, then paused. For a few long seconds, the world watched as an ordinary citizen held back an armored column. To this day, the man's identity remains unknown. No one knows exactly what became of him after that moment. But this image, a man standing against the weight of a government, became one of the most powerful photographs of the 20th century. A single act of quiet defiance, seen by the world, but still unanswered by history. In this 1943 photograph, a young boy raises his hands in surrender. He stands among a group of Jewish civilians being rounded up by Nazi forces during the Warsaw Ghetto liquidation. The fear in his eyes, the way his arms hang in the air. It's an image that has come to symbolize the innocence lost during the Holocaust. No one knows what became of him, but this moment, frozen in a single frame, became one of the most haunting records of World War II. At first glance, it's an ordinary photo from 1941, taken at the reopening of a bridge in British Columbia. But look closer. Amid the crowd in suits and hats stands one man who doesn't quite fit, wearing modern sunglasses, a printed t-shirt, and what looks like a portable camera. He feels out of place. almost like he's from a different time. The internet later dubbed him the time-traveling hipster. Experts have since explained the outfit. All the items existed in the 1940s, but the illusion remains. A quiet reminder of how sometimes a single frame can make the past feel eerily connected to the present. It looks like something from a dystopian film. A baby carriage sealed in metal, with a long breathing tube sticking out the top. But this bizarre invention was very real. Built in 1938 in Britain, it was a gas-resistant stroller designed to protect infants during a chemical attack. The entire carriage was airtight, with a hand pump to circulate clean air inside. Mothers were instructed to seal their babies in completely, sometimes for hours. Few were actually used, but the design reveals just how seriously the threat of war shaped everyday life. A surreal mix of parenting and battlefield strategy. September 11, 2001. As smoke poured from the upper floors of the World Trade Center, countless images were captured that day. But one stood apart, a man falling headfirst from the North Tower, frozen mid-air against the steel and sky. He became known simply as the Falling Man. His identity was never fully confirmed, though many believe he worked in one of the tower's restaurants. The image was rarely published at the time. It was too painful, too immediate. But over the years, it came to represent a side of that day many tried to forget. The impossible decisions made in moments of terror. Not a spectacle, not a headline, just a human being caught in a single irreversible second of history. This image taken in 1950 in North Carolina shows two water fountains, one marked white and one marked colored. This meant that white people should drink from the tap on the left and people of color were only allowed to drink from the one on the right. This was not the only example of this. Multiple segregated water fountains were found in this area. More than just a place to drink, they became symbols of the deep-rooted segregation in parts of the US. This image, taken in the 1960s, shows a chimpanzee in a seat, wearing headphones, calmly staring ahead. His name was Ham, the first hominid sent into space. Strapped inside a mercury capsule, he was taught to press levers on command, or receive electric shocks. This photo was taken after he landed. He survived. But the smile isn't joy. It's a conditioned response, a trained reaction from an animal who didn't understand the experiment he was trapped in. This photo was taken during the Great Famine of 1877 in British-ruled India. It shows a man squatting beside his children. No shelter, no food, no aid. They're too weak to stand. And he's too broken to move. Nearly 6 million people died in this famine, and the British Empire continued exporting grain throughout. The man doesn't speak in this photo, but it says everything about what was taken and what was left behind. This photo was taken in 1932. 11 construction workers sitting on a steel beam, eating lunch with no harnesses, 800 feet above Manhattan. It looks casual, almost staged, but it wasn't. These men were part of the crew building the RCA building at Rockefeller Center. They risked their lives every day, sometimes earning just $1.50 an hour. The photo wasn't taken on the Empire State Building, but for years, people thought it was. Even the identity of the photographer was a mystery for decades. Today, it's believed to be Charles Ebbets, though that's still debated, one of the most famous photos in the world, and we're still not completely sure who took it. This photo was taken in San Francisco in the early 1900s. The building looks unreal, like a Victorian palace dropped on the edge of a cliff. That's the Cliff House, a resort perched high above the Pacific Ocean. It survived earthquakes, crashing waves, and years of violent weather. But not fire. In 1907, the entire structure went up in flames. Nothing could be saved. Today, only photos remain. Ghosts of a place that once stood above everything, then disappeared in smoke. Please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you in the next part.